So what you got to do if you want to go raise money other than going public, if you don't have $100 million, you'd go to a lawyer, a securities attorney, and he'd write a private placement, cost you $30,000, $40,000, and then you could use that to give to people who are known to you this private placement and say, invest in me, right? But they would have to be accredited. They'd have to have a net worth of over $1 million or an income of $250,000. And I won't get too technical, by the way. It sounds like I already have, but I'll try to dumb it down. If you have questions, raise your hand. But the thing was is that these people had to be known to you. So you couldn't advertise, you couldn't solicit, right? And then, so those are really the only two ways that you could raise money. I mean, you could get loans, but if you wanted someone to invest in your business, you have to be compliant with the securities laws. You'd have to get a private placement. You'd have to make sure that they're accredited. You would not have to go to a securities attorney. But they passed in 2012 the Jobs Act. So the Jobs Act is the first major rewrite on how people can raise money in 80 years. So going back to kiva.org is that people were frustrated during the downturn. They said, well, I can't invest in these sites overseas because I'm giving them my money. And it was illegal on the securities because kiva.org, one, was a foreign enterprise. Two, they were trying to raise money without finding out if they were accredited. Three, they were advertising. And so down here, combined with the tight credit markets, a couple guys in Jupiter or Boca Raton, broker-dealers said, enough is enough. Let's go do something about it. And they passed the Jobs Act in about 10 months. Now, it takes usually about 10 years to get a law passed through the U.S. It only took them 10 months because it made sense and it had 95% approval rating through the House and the Senate. So the Jobs Act is really, on the equity side, is really the crowdfunding. I'm not going to get too much, just a little advertisement, is that next week on the 7th at the lab, I'm doing a real estate-based crowdfunding, so we'll get really deep into the equity-based model. That's kind of where I come from, 20 years in raising money in real estate. So coming back, there are three different types of, and I'll try to stay on donation-based, by the way, but I've been teaching a lot of equity, so if I get off topic, just raise your hand and send me back. So let's get back to crowdfunding. So kiva.org really started it all. It launched Kickstarter. Kickstarter was founded by a guy who wanted to raise money so that he could have a concert, like like one of those all-day concert kind of things, right? Yeah, exactly. So he started Kickstarter, which is a donation-based. So there are three different types of donation-based model: Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Rocket Hub, and their proliferation of other platforms now that they use a donation model. That's basically, hey, I've got a great idea, or I've got a charity, please give me a donation so that I can get it going, right? They also have a rewards model. Most of the sites that I just talked about are a combination of donation and reward. So when people talk about crowdfunding, they're usually talking about donation and reward. So a reward base is like a pre-sale. It says, hey, we talked about the coolest cooler. This is a cooler that has a blender, speaker, and motorized, right? You raise $32 million through rewards based, meaning that if you give me a certain amount of money, I'll send you this product if and when it's developed, right? So Kickstarter, Indiegogo, I'll show you a little of those portals. It's the Wild West. There's no regulation on these, and we'll go through a lot of case studies a little bit later. Has anyone heard of Oculus Rift? Oculus Rift is a famous one. It's a 3D goggles, so you put it in and you're immersed. They raised $2 million, $2.5 million in donations and pre-sales, right? The thing is that a year later they sold to Facebook for $2.5 billion. So that's 1,000 times return on your money. Meaning that if it wasn't donation or reward, but equity, which we'll talk about in a second, if I would have given $100, I would have had a return in a year of $10,000. So it wasn't legal at the time for them to do that. And a lot of people got all upset. They're like, hey, I gave you, $200, $2,000. Where's my return? But because these donation and rewards based are unregulated, there's really nothing that you can do. It's really just kind of a charity. We'll talk a little bit about it. By the way, the explosion in donation and rewards-based crowdfunding is phenomenal. One, it's free to do it, and two, if you have an idea, a project, film or anything like that, I recommend that you build a page. The first one's going to be very difficult, and the chances of it succeeding are very small, right? And so I recommend that you build a page, try it out, and then the second one gets easier, the third one gets easier. Like I mentioned earlier, the coolest cooler raised $32 million after 6 attempts to do it, but the most notably, he tried to raise $125 on Kickstarter, then he failed, he had a few more small attempts, and he raised $32 million on it. So anyways, donation and reward. The last one is equity-based. So this is just like investing in a company on the stock market, right? You get shares in the company, or you can make a loan to them and they'll give you a note and then pay you back. Does that make sense? So this is coming online. This kind of where I got off a little tangent earlier on the Jobs Act, right? The first major rewrite securities laws. This is equity-based crowdfunding. So there are sites like Circle Up, which is the coolest, and we can talk about it. There's Realty Mobile, which is a real estate-based one. There's iFunding and what else? Realty Shares, and I'm from real estate, so I know a lot of those. But there are a lot of different iterations of the equity-based. So the yes?
How does crowdfunding work in real estate?
So crowdfunding works in real estate in two different ways. Realty Mobile is a good example. Is that one, they'll usually make a note, like patch of land. So patch of land is that you'll put your property up there. They have a max loan to value, so they'll usually give about 65 to 70% of the purchase price. So if it's 100, they'll give you 70, right? You got to come up with the 30, and then they'll make a loan at 12% to you, payable in a year. And then what they'll do is they'll take that, they'll write the loan, and then they'll take that loan and crowdfund their interest in it. Does that make sense? Everyone kind of follow that? So if I'm an if I wanted, 12% return, interest only on a 12-month term is a very good investment right now, right? So if you look at investments, the safest investment in the world is the U.S. Treasury, right? Because it's backed by the U.S. government, you're going to get paid, right? So that's kind of, investments are about risk and reward. So the higher the risk, the greater the chances that I'm going to lose my money. I'm going to want a better return, right? So look, I'm okay having a 90% chance of losing my money if I get a 50% return on my money, right? But if it's if it's very low risk, it's going to be a very low return. So the U.S. Treasury is trading at what? 0 right now, almost nothing right now, right? That kind of sets the market from the downturn. Since the downturn, we have an artificially suppressed economy right now. The government's pumping a lot of money in and buying stuff back. So a very safe return is at 0, right? With the Treasury, it's usually 1, 2, 3% at all. So if I'm doing a loan on a home at 12%, you see how good of an investment that is? But to make private loans in a home, I would have to come up with 70 grand a pop to do it. So not everybody can do it. But if a crowdfunding site, I can use $5,000 and I can buy just a little bit of share of their 70,000. That's a little bit deep, but that's how it works with some of them. Other ones it would be equity where, look, I've got a house, I'm buying it for $100,000. I plan on doing a little work and then selling it for $200,000. And then I'll sell a few shares of it. You give me $10,000, I'll give you a 10% return. So if I double your money, that $10,000 will now be worth $20,000. So that would be like an equity-based. I get too deep. Come talk to me, buddy.
That was easier to understand.
Was that okay?
Yeah.
It'll all be online. You can slow it down. I know I talk fast, but what are you going to do? Anyways, the equity model. The Jobs Act came into line 2012. It passed, right? It said in the law that you had 90 days. So once a law is passed, it goes to the regulators that are going to oversee it, and they write the rules and the regulations of how this law is going to be governed or implemented. Does it make sense? So in the law, the Jobs Act, it said, hey, here are the new rewrites to how companies can raise money. You've got 90 days to write it. Well, it's 2015, and we still don't have the rules and regulations for all of the Jobs Act. The chairman of the SEC, the oversight, one of the oversight bodies for raising money, Wall Street, she basically said that she didn't believe in crowdfunding and that she's not going to write the regulations and you can wait until she's gone. So she was gone at the beginning of this year. Some of the laws passed, some of them haven't passed. How deep do you want me to get into equity crowdfunding? Do you want me to tell you the titles that you should know? Let's go to the next slide and see where we're at. Here are some examples. Kickstarter is probably the most most popular one. So there are two different ways that you can raise money through a donation or rewards-based crowdfunding. The first way is all or nothing. That means that I set a target, I'm going to raise $100,000, and if I don't get it, I get nothing, right? And then the other one is I get whatever I raise, right? Kickstarter is an all or nothing model. There's a famous example, I forget the name of the company, but they were doing a new cell phone and they needed $32 million. They raised 12.4 and they got nothing, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that. The thing is that you got to kind of be careful with what you're setting, because with that goal, you're setting expectations. Like in film is a good one. I did one at the ad school for film. And look, if I'm telling my audience that I'm going to build a $50,000 version of this film and I only raise $12,000, I got some choices to make, right? Am I going to make a $10,000 or $12,000 version of this film that I presented, or am I going to give the money back, or am I going to use it in a different way? So, you want to get the money, but, the thing about crowdfunding and the internet is it is permanent. Does that make sense? So, the real money in crowdfunding is the follow-on. It's the reputation that you build and how you handle the disappointments, the failures that come along, which inevitably do. Look, the one thing I can tell you about failure or having raised money on an equity side and losing it for friends is it's worse than losing your own money. And two, just be honest. You know what I mean? Have honest answers, be available, and don't hide. And people understand that you're going to fail a few times, and they'll usually keep following so long as they feel that you're trustworthy, honest, open, and they like and enthusiastic. They like your ideas. They'll keep backing you and backing you. It's when you go and try to hide in a corner, which I did, that people just are not happy about. Right? My neighbors are here; they can attest to it. So, all right. Indiegogo is another crowd-based one. Indiegogo they have two different models. So one is all or nothing, or get what you raise. There are different price points or cost of funds on these. I think Kickstarter, you know what it was? Does anyone raise something on here? No. I think it's like 4 to 5% of the total raise, right? We'll talk about the different fees. Kickstarter or Indiegogo is, I think it's 9% if you don't make it, and then like 4% if you do. We'll kind of talk about it. These are probably the two best ones, right? Crowdfunder is a equity-based one. So I'll tell you a little bit about let's keep going. Let's go to the next one. One second. There's so many of them out here right now, by the way. We'll talk a little bit about the photo section. Your question, then you go ahead.
I have a question. What happens with regulations based on when people raise the money they get, and they decide not to do the project?
Well, so that's a great question. What was your question? I'll come back to that.
Mine was that you had mentioned that some of them charge a certain percentage if you don't make your number.
Yep.
If you don't make your number, it's an all or nothing model. You're giving back the money. What happens? How do they figure? Do they take out a percentage for themselves?
Nobody gets anything, and if it doesn't, like a Kickstarter model where it's all or nothing, what they do is that they get your credit card information, and then once the goal is raised, then they charge your card. So nobody's really doing anything until it's structured. Yeah. So Indiegogo has two models.
Yeah.
So that Indiegogo, you say I want to raise 100,000, right? Let's say 10,000, right? And let's say I only raise 6. I can keep the 6, but it's going to cost you 9% fee for Indiegogo. Now, if I raise, let's say 11, I met my goal of 10. It's only going to cost me 4.
Oh, that's because they let you.
Yeah, Indiegogo lets you. Kickstarter does not. It's all or nothing. Right? A lot of people think that the all or nothing is. I forgot. That's just a big topic. We're coming back to that. Go ahead.
Why do people donate? They're not getting anything.
Well, but people get, it's better to give than to receive, isn't, what is that, biblical or Christmas? There is no tax, that's a great question, by the way. A lot of people think that these are donation-based, is a charity, but they are not. You are giving them their money. So a lot of people, there are a lot of ideas that people have that people want in the world, right? So Pebble Watch is a great example. Has anyone heard of that? We've got case studies and we'll go over those. Pebble Watch is the first digital watch, or one of the first ones. The guy was riding his bike and he goes, look, I want to see who's calling me and decide if I want to answer it or not without having to stop my bike and answer it every time. So he created a digital watch, went to all the VCs, and they said, they gave him $200,000 and he was running out of it. And then he said, all right, we're just going to try a Kickstarter campaign. They raised $10 million almost, I think it was in a week or something like that. A lot of them were pre-sales, but a lot of people just wanted that thing to come to fruition. They wanted it in their life, and they were willing to donate to make it happen, right? So people get behind all kinds of causes, right? So you never know, by the way. So that's the great thing about the crowd, is you never know. So that's why it's always, just do it. Yeah.
I was going to give an example of one not a lot of people talk about, Reading Rainbow.
Reading Rainbow.
They tried to raise $1 million, they ended up raising $5 million.
What's Reading Rainbow about?
It was a 80s, 90s TV show.
Oh, Reading Rainbow. I remember Reading Rainbow. Yeah, so that's a lot of things that they're doing now with video games, and we'll talk a little bit why you should do crowdfunding, but it really tests the validity of the idea in the marketplace. It has things, when I talk about raising money on crowdfunding, I call it the funding ion. So the ion is the idea, the operator, and the network. So the theory is the great ideas fund themselves, great operators fund themselves, and big networks fund themselves, right? So if you find we live in a little compound on the beach over here, and they've got this big grill out there that's rusted through, but it's like one of those hot water heater kind of things. And everybody had been talking about that we need a new grill, but nobody wanted to pony up the grand to do it. So I just got back from, this was like 2010 or something, I just got back from a crowdfunding conference. I'm like, let's just see. And so I put up a Rocket Hub, I think it was Indiegogo's site, in 5 minutes. We had, $1,000 in less than 2 days or something like that. So you'll see that there are networks of ideas and creators, and they just need that connection to fund it. So money is concentrated effort. Does that make sense? So I might have an idea that I want to create something, and I have people who want to do it, but I need money to get it going. So if I can get all that money in there, it can take it to the next level. It can, whatever. Does that make sense? That's a big question. Everyone has their own reason. All right. Okay. Other question. I'll get to that later. How about that?
If so many people have failed, are there any companies that will help you succeed?
That's a great question. Crowdfunding Renegade, me, is one. There are a lot of them. I mean, look, I like to talk. I get a lot of people who want to, that's why I created this plan for people to do it. But it's a full-time sport. It's, you've got to stop what you're doing to get forward. And if you're going to raise more than $5,000, $10,000, you kind of need a team around you. So they're starting to come. I encourage people to get into it. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to get one of my friends to help me as a consultant. But consultants are desperately needed in this industry, and there are a lot of people out there. Yes.
So I know the guy. I have a friend who's working with the police schools.
Okay, cool.
And they've actually formed a consultancy as well to actually help people do their
What's its name?
starting campaigns. I don't know the name of the campaign or the organization, but my buddy works with Trident Designs.
Okay.
Heard of Trident Designs? They help inventors get their products to market and to get the patents for the products as well.
Perfect.
And so they're working with the police school. They actually helped the police school on the last campaign to redesign it. So when they launched it, we got it done.
There you go.
So that's they actually took it as a business model and help other people do Kickstarter campaigns.
So there are a lot of them out there. A lot of them it depends on the business, right? In real estate, there are some. Film is really an industry that has been changed dramatically by crowdfunding. I mean, it used to be that I'll think about doing a crowdfunding. Now you kind of got to do one for film-based. One, it's not necessarily for the money, even though the money helps, but it's the validity of the idea, the validity of moving forward. I mean, there's never been a better way to pre-test your ideas prior to launch. Does that make sense? All right, let's go to the next slide. There are a few others: MedStar, Pledge Music, Razoo, Rocket Hub is another one. Let's keep going. All right, what crowdfunding is not. Let's get back to, are there any regulations? So let's say that you raise the money and you don't do what you say you're going to do. So there's a proliferation of people commenting on fraud in crowdfunding right now. And the biggest objection to crowdfunding moving forward is that there's going to be a lot of fraud in it, right? Two different types of crowdfunding. Donation rewards is one, equity and debt is another. Equity and debt is a regulated industry. It's just like the mortgage industry, just like a broker-dealer on the stock market. So there are rules and regulations moving forward with that, very specific, that if they don't do what they say they're going to do, they can get in a lot of trouble, right? On the non-regulated side, the Kickstarter, the Indiegogo, there are no rules and regulations, by the way. There's a lot of fraud going on. However, the good thing about investing in these, a lot of people, they don't necessarily invest, they pre-buy, you know what I mean? So if you're going to do that, you'll see a lot of real cool products up on Kickstarter, right? Make sure that, they're never 100% guaranteed that they're going to go forward with it, right? So make sure that you trust the guy, watch his videos, see where the product's ask questions, and most certainly read through the comments. The good thing is that the bad actor is what they're called in securities industry, is that they're usually filtered out in the internet, and they're exposed, and the chances of them to keep repeating are slimmer and slimmer. Because on all of these sites, unless you're being harassed by somebody on your site, you're not going to be able to remove the comments, right? And they typically follow around. I want to talk a little bit about securities crowdfunding. So let's say that you want to start a new company, or you want to get money for a fund or building a house or something like that. The Jobs Act was passed, and there are 6 titles in the Jobs Act, right? A title is just So Title II of the Jobs Act is very important. Like I said, on May 7th, we'll get into it more. Title IV just passed. Title IV is where, like I said before, if you wanted to go public, right, IPO, you'd need to raise about $100 million and have an idea that could raise scalable to $100 million before a broker-dealer would take you in. Because it would cost you $4 million to go public, right? Well, Title IV lowered the barrier. It's called Reg A+, and so it would cost you, and there are 2 tiers, but in the smaller one, anywhere from $2,500 to $75,000 now to go public. So if you're thinking about going public, Title IV is if you're starting a business or you want to raise money, Title IV is a good one. The other one is Title III, which is not legal yet. This will allow unaccredited investors to invest in stocks and equities. Limited amount at first, but this should be passed kind of toward the end of the year. That's all we're going to talk about, securities based. All right, what crowdfunding is not? It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. You can ask anybody that's done crowdfunding that it's not. It's simple, but it is not easy. Does that make sense? I mean, you can have an Indiegogo site up in 15, 20 minutes. But, you know, this is our pre-launch. This is a 4-week pre-launch. These are each tweets, Facebook, social media, get the word out, right? And then this is our why the campaign is going on. And it's extensive. It's a full contact sport. But there's no better way to raise money, test validity. Let's go on to this. I guess I could do this if you want. All right. It's not for the lazy. I mean, you need to get out there. You like that? I stole these, by the way, just in case you want to know. Slideshare.net. Has anyone been on Slideshare? They're great. You get all the PowerPoints. This is a mix of them. Maybe I should. We'll edit that one out. All right. Go on. Next. Crowdfunding is not just for underfunded companies. A lot of people think that, oh, I've got a company, I need to raise a little bit more money. Pebble's a good example. We'll just go on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any of the others. It's not that. I mean, the spectrum of things that are raising money on crowdfunding, from a rusted oak grill at the compound on South Beach to, I mean, you name it. What's being funded on crowdfunding is just astonishing to me. I remember, so I stumbled on crowdfunding. I was a business development guy for a family office, so really just a bunch of rich people. I had the opportunity that I could go anywhere, any of the conference I wanted to, and I would just sign up for it. So in 2010, I stumbled on crowdfunding at an event in Vegas, and it was a bunch of weirdos looking for funding for algae farms or something. So it's really evolved from there. I think some of them got money, but it's really evolved from there. And anyways, next slide. All right, show me the more money. All right, so this is a good example of Sense. So this is a 3D sensing. Actually, this was pulled when they had 42 days to go, but it's a 3D sensor on your iPhone, right? This is a Kickstarter page. I think the real revolution in crowdfunding, by the way, is called the pitch page. So when you go into a portal, you'll log on to this, the person that's asking for the money, and on it will be this here. There's a little bit more down to it here, but this is the pitch page. It'll have a video that explains the idea, a pitch video, very important. You know, we're seeing the proliferation of video right now on the internet. One, broadband has really just got to a place where it can support it, but there are 300 hours of video uploaded for, I think it's every second on YouTube, right? So it's crazy. But the thing about video is it's how we communicate. So that's why the proliferation, it makes it easier. You know, what is it, 10, 20% of all communication is verbal. So it's body language, so you can judge excitement. So that on the pitch page, it's got a pitch video, which is the first time you can really look at what's the idea, right? We'll get a little bit into it. But on it also, it's got here, you've got the home page. This would be another tab. You've got updates, you've got the backers, and you've got comments. So this is the digitization of the offering memorandum. So before, like I remember I was reading an interview about one of Warren Buffett's wives or whatever, and she said all he does is sit up in his office and read 24/7 these offering memorandums. They're usually thick offering memorandums. And it's all of this information condensed into a text form, right? And it was very difficult to get through these. And so this is the first digitization of the offering memorandum, or the ask, I guess is what you call it. So this is the real revolution. So accredited investors in the U.S., these are the people who can invest in these kind of offerings, not Kickstarter, but like if they wanted to invest in like a alternative energy thing, it's accredited investors who could do it. There are roughly 8 million of them in the U.S., and less than 1 million of them actually invest. because they don't have access to deal flow, right? Most of them are working full-time and they don't have time to read through offering memorandums. So this pitch page allows them to consume that information, one in the most readily consumable way, video and audio, right there. They can really do an interview of the person that's asking for it. They can get update information. They can do a long copy deep dive into this at their own leisure, through their own device, however they want to. So this is the real revolution that's going on right now is the pitch page. Anyways, this is an example of a pitch page. They have 42 backers. They raised 42 days ago, they raised $500,000, 1,300 backers. You hit down, and we'll keep going. This is the next one, 14 days ago, 2,700, they raised close to $1 million. And look, of a $100,000 goal, by the way. So a lot of people, they may be pre-ordering this, but a lot of people are just donating. So you give little gifts and rewards. We'll get into it. Let's go through these kind of facts. Crowdfunding is like the early days of the internet. I mean, we are really in the beginning. Like I said, on the equity side, it's not all legal yet. Title III, which will let all of us invest, I think, will let us invest in small companies, isn't even legal yet. So we're really at the beginning of this. So this is why I like crowdfunding, is that I saw it in 2010, and this is the first year that I've had anybody raise their hand as to have heard of it or knew a project on it. So it's really starting to take off. Next slide, please. This is me. It's a good picture. All right, we can go to the next one. How I got started, I think I already told you that. I teach, I speak all over the place, so you'll see. I'm kind of done with doing my Miami tour. Maybe I'll start up again, but this is my 4th one. I'll have another one next week at the lab on real estate and securities-based crowdfunding. So if you're interested in real estate or how to raise money for real estate, we'll deep dive into the project. We'll talk about the securities laws. So investing, there are different types of assets. One's a tangible, something that I can touch. One's an intangible, something like an idea, right? Intangible assets are notoriously difficult to raise money on because they got to understand it, right? But tangible assets like real estate are much easier, and people understand real estate. So real estate is tailor-made for crowdfunding, and it's having a big effect, and even more to come. Let's go to the next slide, please. Why this presentation? There's nothing worse than pouring your heart and soul into something just to see it fail, right? Sometimes you just gotta have an excuse, right? So you're gonna fail. I mean, I shouldn't say you're gonna fail. There are notorious examples of people raising tons of money on Kickstarter and these, but if you fail on your first, your second, your third, your fourth, it means nothing, right? Only your ego. And trust me, I understand more than most that, ego gets in the way of a lot, but you want to fail forward. So you'll learn something every time you do it. You'll learn different platforms. You'll build your crowd. You'll build your community. And if you treat them right, you'll take them with you to your next one. Let's go. I'll get through these a little faster. Did you know that 60% of them fail? The average raise is less than $10,000. And the reason why most of them fail is because they don't do a pre-launch. Let's go to the next one. All right, everyone can fish. Oh, we can't see the little example down here. Everyone can fish, some more than others, right? So some people will raise big ones, some people will raise small ones. You get in trouble when you start comparing to other campaigns. Let's move on to the next. Everyone can crowdfund something. There's a famous crowdfund evangelist called Candace. I forget her last name, maybe she's not that famous. But she said that within everyone's social sphere, there's about $100,000 that can be raised through crowdfunding. And I think that's true. I mean, a lot of the examples of the people that came from nothing that raised a lot of money. So never quit. You can see, look, a lot of them are more like this. Artist Buttons raised 180. 10-year hoodie. This is a 10-year hoodie. Did you see this? The indestructible hoodie, right? You could wear it. They raised $1,053,000 in pre-sales. Well, let's move on. It's crazy, right? What is this thing? That's me. Crowdfunding is all about building and connecting with your community. The money part comes after you succeed with the connecting part, right? So there is no crowdfunding without the crowd. Let's move on to the next one. I'll prove it. So this is the coffee party movement. So by the way, you were asking about agencies that help. There's an agency called the Mad Hatter Agency. They're very expensive though. Minimum retainer is $25,000, but this is one of theirs. So this is what I'm talking about. That these are crowds right? So you've got 450,000 people that are joining the coffee movement, right? So if you control this crowd or you're a part of this crowd, we'll talk about finding these crowds, there's a lot of pent-up demand in there for products, services, movements, ideas. Right, next slide. The media took note. Go on to the next one. Oh wait, here it is. They had no budget. It was 100% volunteer. They had something to say. They involved people and they had a plan. And then the media took note, right? So that's the thing about crowdfunding is that crowdfunding is being used, one, by media. We'll talk about reasons to invest, and one of them is the media attention that crowdfunding gets. If you can get a spike, and if you can plan it where you get some kind of spike of momentum, and it gets picked up in the media, forget about it, right? But also VCs, they look through crowdfunding, failed crowdfunding campaigns to look for investment. Did you have a question or comment?
No, because you brought up VCs, I read in the book, Low,
Yeah.
it's always a good idea to do like a Kickstarter.
Yeah,
like if you have a business.
they're kind of making it mandatory now.
Huh?
They're kind of making it mandatory.
Yeah, to do a Kickstarter to see how your product does. If it does well, you're more likely to get a VC or angel or after that.
So, look, if I've got 15,000 people that invested in my Kickstarter campaign, that has credibility. I mean, that has value, right? Even if, let's say, I raised $10,000 through 5,000 people, I can use that. Yeah, so in movies, I can use that for maybe a distributor. I can use that to a producer, or I can use that to a studio or something. It has validity. It proves validity in the marketplace. That's the biggest risk in investing in startups, right? Is that, is the public going to accept it? Is it something that's going to take off? So if I can prove that validity or scalability prior to it, right? Let's move on with this example, if that's okay. Thank you for helping. Common, go back one. All right, keep going. A common mistake. I set the link to the campaign for 60 days so I could figure it out, right? So a lot of people just get in there. You can set different campaign links. Huh?
That's me right there.
That's most people. Hit it one more time. And one more time. All right, just say no to this, by the way. Right? So there are different campaigns that you can do. A lot of people just, look, I'm going to encourage all of you to go test something tomorrow, right? Do a crowdfunding campaign tomorrow. You might not get any visitors. You might not get. I've got a lot of them out there that have gotten nothing, right? But what it'll do is you'll learn the tools of the trade. You'll learn how to do it. But to really get going, to make an impact, you need to have a plan prior to launch. So it's really critical. They have spiders on these crowdfunding portals that'll come around, and if you have a big investment on your first couple days, or if you have a big investment anywhere along, they'll get picked up in their advertising, and they'll get sent out in their newsletters, they'll get featured on their first blogs, and that's how you get these significant raises, right? So there are different, you can do anywhere from 0 to 120 days on a Kickstarter campaign, or a lot of the campaigns, right? A lot of people want to do it kind of long. They're like, all right, I'll just do it long, and hopefully people will come in and fund it. I can tell you that very few crowdfunding campaigns get funded outside of your circle, right? So the best time to do the best length to do a crowdfunding campaign is 30 to 45 days, right? The shorter the better because it builds in urgency, right? If somebody's got 120 days, I'll come back to it, and they never do, right? So 30 to 20 days, let's keep going. I'll get through these and then we'll get into it. What crowdfunding looks like, research, planned. So the great thing about crowdfunding, both in equity and the donation, is that you want to go through the successful past ones that are similar to yours. Usually your idea is not as unique as you think it is. Well, I mean, most people don't think it's unique. Usually there are other ideas that are similar to yours, is what I should say. So search out and try to find successful ones across different portals and study what they did. Watch their pitch video. Look at their updates. Look at the people that they invested in. And I'll give you a few secrets how you can also find out how they got exposure in a second here. But research is the key, right? So there are a lot of different portals out there. I mean, I listed like 5. I think there are 1,200 out there now. So if you can do a search for a successful Kickstarter campaign similar to yours, right? Then you can see which portals are better for yours. You can see how they marketed. You can actually see their backers, and who knows, maybe you can even reach out to them, right? So people may invest in yours if they invested in theirs. So research is the key to making it. We do a 45-day pre-plan on the crowdfunding campaigns, and like I said, I'll give you a copy of that. Next, back, sorry. Right? Build, refine, set feedback, involve people. This This is not perfect. So you want to build your audience prior to it. A lot of people will throw it up there, right, and then start building their audience and trying to get their friends involved. The best, most successful crowdfunding campaigns is that you want to identify your audience first, right, your friends, your family. You want to let them know that you're going to be investing, and it's very important that if they're going to invest, that they invest in the beginning or in the first couple days, right, because you want that initial pop. It builds credibility. People like to see that your friends and family have invested in you. And you want to do as much pre-work prior to the launch so that you have an effortless, you want to get your crowdfunding campaign as short as possible, so that takes a lot of pre-work prior to it. Let's see, wait, now let's launch. Impressions, so let's move on. What time is it?
6:47.
All right, we'll get to it. How to do it. Let's go on to the next one. All right, so this is Trilio.com. Has anyone heard of this? All right, so this is a free app. I mean, it's a freemium kind of thing. But basically what you can do is that you have all of your team members on here. They can share a board here, right? You segment it up, research, build, launch. You assign tasks. This is a good website to get it organized. Like I said, if you're going to do more than $5,000, $10,000, you're going to want more than one person, right? Go to the next one, please. I'll send you these slides too if you want. Build a team. Come on. All right. Hit it one more time. No, that's good. Teams with 4 or more raise 85% more money, right? Well, if you go into Bold, by the way, we might not have enough time, but Bold by Peter Diamandis, in the very chapter 9, 10, and 11, he talks about crowdfunding and details the people that you need to build a team. You need a face, someone with the charisma to do the video, to set the vision, to lead it. Doesn't necessarily have to be the team leader, but someone to lead the campaign, to excite the people. The next graphic designer would be nice if you don't have one. There are a lot of different crowdsourcing sites that you can use to find them. What else? I'll go over it a little bit later. If we don't have time, Peter Diamandis, he outlines it really good. Yes.
Well, say you have an idea, but you're scared of someone taking your idea, and you want to find, have a graphic designer, need someone to do something. How exactly? Like, is there things set in place to go to one of those sites and find a graphic designer?
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah. So Elance is a good one for you. So I'm going to tell you that when you run into this, a lot of people that they have ideas they don't want to share. Crowdfunding might not be the best way for you because you're going to blast it out there, right? But you know what? Look, if there are patent laws, it depends on how much you want to get into it. You want to protect your idea, but also realize that unique ideas are very rare, and that someone's probably doing some sort of iteration of it or have that idea. So everybody has ideas. It's execution and effort that actually make the success. So it's get it out there and get behind it and get moving. The problem is if you have a great idea and you stall, it gives people an idea to come in. So a lot of people, I got a great idea, and they want to protect it and they never launch. I think that's more risky than getting out there and doing a full court press. You know what I mean? So yeah, crowdfunding, it's going to be difficult to protect it unless it's patent protected, and then even patent protected, so the problem with a patent is one, it's expensive to get, but two, it's even more expensive to defend. So I would recommend that any way that you can, not hold on so tight, right, and kind of get it out there and move forward. I don't want to give your idea to everybody, but I think I guess.
You're probably going to talk about this in the end, but
I would say I'm going to.
Along the lines of what she was asking, people that you can hire yourself when they take a retainer.
Shelley,
what happens?
raise your hand, Shelley. Shelley's a crowdfunding consultant.
What happens? Do they guarantee success? What happens?
No, well, so. I had a great example. Someone asked me the other day, I was working with Patrick Land, which is a crowdfunding site, and an investor, so basically Patrick Land will write a note, so 12% on your house, and then they'll take that, sell it off in $5,000 chunks to all their investors. And she's like, well, if I invest in that and he fails, can I just take the money and put it in another one? No, there's no risk, there's no reward. So there's no guarantee that it will work, but what you want with a consultant is one that they can coach you along in the process, right? So, most people know what they should do, but they don't do what they know. And so if you can have a professional guide to guide you and help you along and give you advice and professional counseling along the way, that's the best that you're going to get.
There's something I did notice when I did all these people that I can coach you, they had all these consultants and they find
once you're on there, you can get a lot of
you get a lot of
So I mean, a good plan, so this is what we have as a plan. So, a good plan will help, and once you see this plan, this is an intensive plan, you're gonna need, so I owned a big mortgage lender back in the day, and I had a good consultant that I liked, but he really didn't do anything to get us along. But it's just like a coach for Tiger Woods, right? The coaches are gonna play the game for you. In the end, you're responsible for your results, right? They could help you improve your results, but they can't play the game for you. Is that a good answer? Yeah, exactly.
Is the environment the same as social media, being that it's changing all the time?
Yes, it's changing all the time.
So, you can safely say that there's no real expert in the landscape because it's not there yet?
Well, I don't know. Look, expertise is overused because everything's changing, right? Everything's changing so fast in this day and age anyways. So you want, the best, I wouldn't call them an expert, but you want someone that's confident and has an understanding of the way going forward and can keep you on track, right? That's the most important thing, is that they help you fetter out and define your ideas, right? And then get it on paper or get it uploaded and then move forward with a push. I can tell you in my experience with consultants and coaches, I really just need someone to encourage me and push me forward more than I need someone to tell me what to do. That may not be the case in here. So when hiring a coach or consultant, one, be honest with what you need and what you know, and two, kind of interview them for to make up for the weakness that you feel that you have, right? This is but there's no coach or consultant that can guarantee your results. If they're guaranteeing your results, be careful of them, one, because, all right, any other questions, comments, complaints, concerns? All right, let's move on to the next one, please. Vision, research, here are the team members. Vision, research, I transferred this from a Mac to a, go back one, William. So here are some of the team members that you might want. Someone who's got the vision to lead. Research, someone who's good with social media. Crowdfunding is all about social media. Other skills, video, writing copy. So if you don't have these, you might want to think about bringing someone in that does have them, or identifying people in your crowd that you can bring in and help you with that. Okay, the next one. Don't get overwhelmed. Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and what is uniquely your own. Bruce Lee, it's easy to get overwhelmed in this because there's so much to do. The real important thing is just to do it. Yes?
Okay. When you say get teams together, let's say you're trying to raise, you're trying to more campaign, but you're probably a college student or something, and you're like, you have no, what kind of compensation or how would you work out? Like,
Who, me?
No, just a regular person. How would they compensate? Like, let's say if they're trying to get somebody on board on their team, and they're like, why am I going to spend X amount of hours to help you with your campaign? How is that going to benefit them?
Well, so one, you have to have an idea that you're passionate about, and then start building your crowd prior to it. Look, we do what's called the funding spoke. So you have your page in the middle, and then you have all of your social media around it, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it, and they all kind of pull back into it. So when you want to get it, just because you have an idea and no followers, probably not going to do very good. So you want to get your idea, you want to figure out a way to put it, and get it out there and start developing followers. People like to help. Everybody wants to be led. Does that make sense?
Right.
So if you have an idea, and you can find some people who are passionate about it, it's amazing how many people will line up to help you live your dream, right? But be understanding or compassionate with the people that want to follow on with you. A few things about leadership is that people want to follow people who are confident in where they're going. So don't you gibbersate back and forth, you can't make a decision or something like that. And then be fair. A lot of people will do a lot of things just for recognition or credibility that they helped, right? You don't have to compensate people with money all the time. It helps sometimes, but you don't need to. So if you have an idea, first test the idea, create like a funding spoke of it, make all this, social media is free. I can't even begin to tell you how many social media pages I have. And, I'll create a, we do a lot of these workshops, so I create a little book on the workshop, then I create a Facebook page on it, a LinkedIn page on it, and then I kind of guide everybody back into it. And some of them get no followers, some of them people are kind of sick of looking at, but other ones, I got a lot of people that are like Crowdfunding 101, right? This is one of the mini courses that I had. This had the most likes, the most follows, so I developed it into a program, right? And now I've got, 140 people registered here. I get 100 people at the lab. So now, I'm not soliciting coaching or anything like that from these, but now I've got a little bit of a following, right? So now I can start identifying, in any following, you'll have true believers, so no matter what you say, they're like, they'll follow you, right? And you'll have disbelievers, right? And so you want to kind of play with that. So, look, not every idea is going to get crowdfunding. Crowdfunding's not easy. Some ideas just aren't going to go anywhere. So you want to build or attempt to build a crowd prior to launch, right? And we've never had a better time to reach more people than with social media and crowdfunding now. So test the idea, get some backers, and then try to find the true believers. There's a great study on Jim Jones. You know Jim Jones, the guy that took everybody down there? So how do you get people not only to kill themselves, but to give the Kool-Aid to their children and family members, right? But it's a real lesson on how to build crowds, how to build followers, how to build influencers. And it might be a dark way to understand it or read it, but it's fascinating. So what does this mean? Anyways, what's the next one? Do your research. Look, this is a really good way to do your research. Take notes on it. Look, I see, one second. Look, crowdfunding raises are not unique to the one raise, right? It means, so if you wanted to see, it's getting more difficult now, if you wanted to see what's popular in a society, right? There are a lot of people who do a lot of research on this. Bookstores were a really good place to understand what's in the social consciousness. So what you do in a bookstore is you walk in, and whatever's at eye level as you start walking in, this is what they've done a lot of research on. This is what people have polled. These are the best sellers. So you can get an idea by looking at the titles on what's in the social conscious right now. Does that make sense? So that was to create, like, let's say, a knowledge product to sell to somebody. It's like, all right, these are the very popular ones now, the top ones. I guess Barnes & Noble's not around, but Books & Books is another one. And, all of the publishers have done a lot of research and a lot of studies on what's selling and what people want right now. So it's a good idea. You can get some ideas on what's in the social conscious. Same thing with crowdfunding is once you find the ideas, you could go to their page and hit Advanced Tab and hit Successful Campaigns, and they'll all pop up. So, look there, look at the ones that they had. Let's move on to the next. I'll give you some ideas to find. App research, keep going. This is just the same thing. Developing the message. It's important to have a targeted message, right? A massive transformative purpose, I think, is what you man has talked about. But, you want to develop your message so that it's concise and that it gets people in. A great way to test it is with your friends and family to see what other people did. You know what the #1 selling publication in the U.S. is, by the way? I think I was telling people this. So it is the Inquirer. They sell 1 million copies a day. So if you look in the Inquirer at the newspaper stand, was I telling you guys this the other day? I was telling you guys. They're glad I'm up here because I chew their ears off talking. So I appreciate you guys listening. Anyways, so because 1 million a day are sold nationwide, it's the most expensive advertising in the U.S. right now, right? So if you look at the ads that are in the Inquirer, they're written by the best and the brightest in the business, and they are all about consumer direct advertising. So the headline is to shock you, to pull you in. The first paragraph is to get you to read the next paragraph, right? But they have the best one-liners, the best headlines in the industry. So if you want to steal from anybody, if you see an ad that keeps running in the Inquirer, it means that headline is tested and it pulls. So you want ads that pull. They pull you in. You want people, look, if you talk to a publisher about books, so most people read less than 10% of books, right? It's the cover that sells. So they'll change the covers until they'll finally get a bestseller, right? So you want to pull people in. Inquirer is one of the best ways to do it. If it's continuously running in the Inquirer, right, they're spending like $1 million a week to run that ad. So you know it's making money for them. It is pulling. So you can pull from that. Anyways, it's good to develop your message. You don't have to have the shock and awe, but there are, look, copy through consumer direct marketing has been around for, it's the gym upstairs, by the way. I remember when I was first here, like, how can they keep moving? It's the gym. So, develop your message, get a headline that pulls relative to your message. Inquirer is a great trick. Moving on to the next one. All right, focus on blogs, forums, and pushers, right? So this is how you get your message out. There are people, social media influencers out there that have big followings and big followings that listen to what they say, right? Gary Vaynerchuk's a good example, the wine guy, right? And any of the celebrities, right? Move on to the next one, please. All right, so this is a trick to find out. So look, this guy raised $102,000 for, I don't even know what the hell it was, logos or or something. I forgot what it was. I should probably put that. So I want to see how he got his message out. The funding spoke or whatever, right? So what I can do is I can go to the next slide, please. If I go to the next one, I can go to Google Images. I can screen copy that image and just upload it in here. Go to the next one, please. And bam, it will show me everywhere that picture came up, right? So this will allow me to get somewhat of a map of how this guy did his marketing for his campaign. Does everyone kind of follow that? Right? So now I can go on here and I can see Adam Express, all of these. So these are pushers, these are influencers, how he got his message out. And if you've got a similar idea, they'll probably do the same for you, right? Does that make sense? Because they're either in that space or their crowd follows them for their expertise in that space. And so I can find that image, I can pull it in there, bam, now I've got my shortcut. And look, creating a new map is crazy. You want to, what did Picasso say? Good artists borrow, good artists borrow, great artists steal, right? So if you can steal their map to a successful I know you hate that, but you're going to have to do it. But I can see her glaring look. So I steal everything. I guess that makes me great. That might not be linear thinking, but anyways, so if you can find someone else's map, let's go to the next one, I'll show you how to do it too. Blog Links Finder is another good one. Sex trafficking, maybe I should take that out, but go to the next one. Go back one if you would. Do follow blogfinder.net. This is the one you want. All right, go to the next one. So if you can get these researchers, so this is the one that they did for, I didn't even realize it was sex trafficking. Here are all the mentions of the blogs and everything. Go to the next one. 10 pages of highly relevant results. Niche blogs drive more conversions, right? So if you've got only a blog, you might have a news blog that blasted out this story, but if you've only got one that specializes in weirdos for sex trafficking, right? And then they're all about that site, right? They're going to get more followers, more. And you want to identify these bloggers, these pushers, because, let's move on to the next one, I'll show you here. Is that, go on to the next one, we'll come back to this one. Social media is nothing without identifying and connecting with influencers. We'll move on to the next one we talked about. I want to show you this one site. So this is socialbro.com. You can type in, you'll see all of the relevant credibility. If you go on here, type in your, once you find, this one right here is the title search is #crowdfunding. Here are all the influencers on here, all the followers, all of their relevant credibility on there. Go on to the next one. So this whole thing is that you're trying to find out what they did, who shared it, who's popular in the niche that you want. This is a mention map where it maps out. This is part of it's mentionmap.com. I don't have a lot of time to get into these, so I'll send you guys a slide if you email it to me, and there's more information on it, and I'll send you more information on how to use them. Go on to the next one. Socialbro.com. So this is a good example of Anna Tran. She's a big, famous, you can see that she's got a cloud score of 80. Cred, she's the top 50 most media influencer for social trend on live, love, laugh luxuriously, right? So if I had like a luxury product and I wanted her to get it out to her vast dominions of followers, right? I would have found her through I got the picture, I see that she's doing it anyways to a similar product. I found out exactly who she was, I got her cloud score, now I know who this person is. Right? So I can reach out to her. Go to the next one. So this one here, all you got to do is ask, by the way. It would be really, all you have to do is ask. Most people are afraid that they're going to get a no or rejection and they never try. But most of the social media influencers are just like you. Most of the celebrities also, by the way, if you can get their contact information. It's amazing how many people you can get in touch with. So send her a quick message. I emailed you. I hope this day finds you well. I just emailed you via your online forum about a project I'm working on and requesting your help. And then follow up, be polite. Don't ask ridiculous. If you can just get a post on an influencer's blog or something like that, it can mean worlds to drive traffic back to your crowdfunding site.
Is that on Twitter?
This is on Twitter, yes. All right, moving on. Any questions so far? What's the next? Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Yes, so let's say you build your campaign, you have your team, you've done all your research, and now you're creating that funnel of driving people back and using blog posts. what is the best way to stay in touch with the community that you built? Is it like sending out a weekly message saying we're building, we're in progress of pushing out a product
So during the campaign or in general?
in general?
Well, so it depends on how you built that crowd and how they communicate, right? So some people have crowds that they like to communicate on Twitter, like Gary Vaynerchuk is another one. Everyone know who he is, by the way? He wrote a lot of great books. Crush It is a good one. Gary V, the wine guy, the wine library or something. He basically built a $50 million wine business on social media, off YouTube actually. He was one of and he's crazy. And he explains all of this in all of his books, by the way. But it depends on how your tribe likes to communicate with you, right? So if you got 50,000 followers on Facebook, Facebook might be a good way. If you got them on Twitter, Twitter might be a good way. So there are a couple sites that you might want to look at. One is called bufferapp.com. Have you guys heard of this? And ifthisthenThat.com. So bufferapp.com allows you to pre-write your posts, and then you put them in one place, and you can connect them with all of your social media, and then you hit it, and it sends them, and I can write like 12 of them and decide on the schedule. So I could have 50 posts in my Buffer app, and then I set them to go out once a day, then for the next 50 days, I'll get one to all the social media that I signed up to it. But it's how your tribe likes to be communicated with. How you've established and built that relationship is different for everybody. Does that make sense? But Buffer app would probably be the best way to do it. One thing about social media or interacting with people, it used to be 1 in 3. So for every 3 posts that you write, you can write one self-promotion, right? Now it's 1 in 9, they say. Do whatever you want. And one thing about success and failure, everybody's worried about that I'm going to fail, but the truth of the matter is that actions produce results, right? And if you modify your actions to produce desired results, that's kind of how you get there, right? So the thing about all of this is it's all free now. I mean, other than what it costs you to access it through Atlantic Broadband or whomever, this is all free. So if you go out there and you fail, you just need to modify the results based on the data that's given and keep going until it works. So this is success for other people, and it may or may not work for you. The key is to try and then modify until you get desired results. Anyways, 1 in 9 of all social media posts should be about what you're promoting, right? So there's a great site. So that can be difficult, right? So if I'm trying to be an expert in crowdfunding, I want to talk about crowdfunding in business, right? So, and if I'm promoting a course or a class for me, then I want 9 about the crowdfunding industry, 1 about my class. Does that make sense? So there's a great website called ifthisthenThat, something.com, ifthisthenThat, you'll get to it. But it's basically programming, and the way that they have it is that you'll have blocks, and it'll say, look, so I do CrowdFundBeat is a hub in the crowdfunding industry. I take their RSS feed, and I post it to Buffer app. And then I do that with a few sites. So I've constantly got these RSS feeds feeding into my Buffer app and then sending out on my schedule to all of my social media. So it's automatic. Does that make sense? So if this, then that, Buffer app, figure it out. All right. Media magnetism. So the thing is that bloggers, crowdfunding, peer-to-peer lending, they're all being watched by the media, right? So you never know what's going to go viral or get picked up. Does that make sense? All right, let's go to the next one. We'll get into it in a second. Keep going. Opt-in. So this is another one, by the way. So this is kind of like pre-building your list. This is Comfy and Sexy Heels. You see how they did a pre-launch here? I mean, this is ideally how you'd want to do it. If you have a business or some sort of tribe or community around your project, you want to build momentum prior to the campaign. So they sent this out to all their customers, all their followers, all the people that were interested in them, 102 days. Put your email in here and tell me more. Let's go to the next one. We'll show. This is a great example. This is a Mad Hatter campaign, by the way. They paid them $25 grand, and I think they got 10% of the total raise for this. We think we can reinvent heels, and then they did their campaign. This is all prior to doing their launch. It's critical to do these steps building up, by the way. If you can have a huge launch, let's say that I wanted to raise $10,000 and I've got 9,000 in commitments prior to launch, that's golden because you'll get more than your launch, you'll get exposure, you'll get media, it gets picked up with the news. So you want to try to build it prior to it. And just so you know, the commitments are Much easier to raise than actual donations, by the way. But next one, so they sent out this video. They funneled interaction back, right? So they had their comments. They had 202. So comments are great. They start building a community. They get them interacting with the product, right? Does that make sense? Keep going. I'm losing people. All right. Contact information. Let's keep going. I like pictures of myself. These are going to be practical steps, why you should do it and how you should do it. And then, do you want to go through these, or do you want me to do case studies and show you successful raises? Okay. Market validation and real demand measurement. So look, listen, Peter, these are right out of Peter Diamandis' books, right? If you want to go in there, he's got a thick, deep dive into all of this, and he raised millions for the X Prize, and he put Telescope in Space. Brilliant book, great writer. Market validation and real demand measurement. So if you go to a VC now and you want to raise money, chances are, if they don't understand the product or they're not really excited about it, they're going to say, hey, do a Kickstarter or a crowdfunding campaign to judge market validation and real demand. So there are other reasons other than to raise money to do a Kickstarter campaign or a crowdfunding campaign. Here are two. Next. Raising a significant venture capital. Like I said, a lot of them now are going into, hey, if you want to raise money from me, I need you to put in some effort through crowdfunding. Next, development of a paying community of customers. So this is the key. I mean, if you can develop a platform or a portal around your tribe. Seth Godin wrote a great book I think we talked about earlier called Tribes. It's kind of where we're going. Niches are riches. It used to be back in the pre-internet days is that it was very difficult to identify a niche community, very expensive to get to them and get them interacting and communicating. Now it's really easy. So niches are riches. And if you can develop a tribe or a community around your product or idea, that pays rewards in spades going forward. And Kickstarter and Indiegogo and all of these are a way to do it. Look, there's no stronger follower than a person who votes with their wallet. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question.
Sure.
How far before you do a launch should you start doing pre-promotion or pre-marketing or pre-advertising?
What is it? AIDA? No, ABC. Always be closing. Oh, you mean you're always going to look. Like I said, if you email me, Crippening Funded by Design, I'll send this one out. This one is. We have 5 weeks pre-launch, step by step, right? And I'll send it to you. So at a minimum, 4 weeks. Do some kind of planning. But fail forward also. I mean, just do it. I mean, I don't want to tell you should do 4 weeks and then you don't do it. But yeah.
All right. How far apart? Let's say you have a business and you have 2 separate products.
Okay.
How far apart should you? And you want to do a Kickstarter for each of 6,000. How far apart should you run both campaigns?
That's a good question. Look, I would do one. Try it differently. I do one on Indiegogo, one on Kickstarter. Maybe try it differently. I mean, you can do them sequentially. You can do them back to back. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I would go for it on both of them. It depends on how similar the ideas are. You don't want a one-off addition. You don't want to put 2 products and this one's a better version of this one. That's kind of so it depends on the products. It depends on the size of the crowd that you have. Ideally, you'll know your crowd better than anyone else, right? Does that make sense? All right, next. Thank you. This is a cheap cost per customer acquisition. So if you have a business and you're selling products right now, you might list it on Kickstarter, right? Do a pre-sale. So that's one of the workarounds. So when the downturn came, the credit markets froze up, and businesses need credit to survive. So a lot of businesses have they turn credit daily. They need this much money in the morning to buy this product to sell the next day. And when those markets froze, a lot of businesses didn't have a way to raise money or keep going. And one of the workarounds that they did was a pre-sale crowdfunding campaign where they say, hey, I got this, I want to sell it to you before I make it, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. It can be, and that developed the whole industry, by the way. But it doesn't have to be that way. Crowdfunding is a real cheap way to get the message out and to develop customers very cheaply, right? Next, please. You're passionate about your project. I think this is the biggest goal, by the way. If you do a pitch page or a video that shows and expresses your passion, what it'll do is it'll ignite a tribe, or it can ignite a tribe around you. So if anything, forget about everything I said. If you have a project that you're passionate about, get it out there, film a video, put it up there. It'll take you 10 seconds. And then all the other stuff that you can layer on top of the social media and all of the free stuff that's available for you, do that, lay into it, email, but if you're passionate about it, go for it. You never know, and the cost to do this is nothing. Thank you, by the way. Public relations benefit, all of the media are trolling all of the big crowdfunding portals, and the equity crowdfunding portals as well, yes.
So back to the passion video.
Yes.
How passionate are you talking about? Like, you just saying, this is what I'm working on, this is what
Yeah, so this is the pitch video. So there's a pitch video that you'll have on your page. I don't know if you can make it to May 7th, but we'll get a little bit more in depth. Be passionate about it. It depends on what your product is. If you've got a working model of the product, show the product, describe the product. You don't have to be super crazy passionate about something. You don't have to express it by jumping up and down, right? You can tell that I'm passionate about crowdfunding and I'm not cheering, right? Does that make sense? So just get up there and say what you mean, speak directly to the camera. The pitch video should be no longer than 90 seconds, but you need to use that 90 seconds, and there's a formula for it. If you email me, I'll send you the formula that the experts have, but experts are a dime a dozen. If you're passionate about a project, get in front of a camera and record it and put it out there. I did a video on, there's a whole revolution going on in the single family market with institutions and everything. In 2010, I did a video at a small conference that I recorded and put it up. It's 70,000 views, or I think it's 55,000 views, like in a week and a half. So, you never know when something's going to take off. Does that make sense? Not that that's a huge takeoff, but it was for me. So, just do it. Record it, put it up there, and see what happens, yes. And then layer in tricks of the trade as you can, yeah.
Okay,
I love your hat, by the way.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Basically, we've been speaking about products, physical products. How does it work with ideas for programs?
Well, so tangible and intangible products. Tangible products are going to be easier to sell, right? Intangible are going to be a little bit more difficult. Yes, no, maybe. It's all about your passion. Just make sure that you can translate or describe it so that people can see it or everybody's different, by the way. People learn through visual. Some people are touchy, like kinesthetic, and some are through audio. So make sure that you describe it so that you can get all of the people who they absorb information in all different ways. Make sure that you're clear and concise in ideas when you're getting out there. Have a plan, put it in writing. The thing about writing, by the way, like a lot of people have a lot of ideas, and when you write them down, it's the first process into bringing that into the physical world. So it's important that you write it down. If we look around this whole room, everything here came from the idea of someone's idea first, and then they translated it down on paper so that it was like its first step into the real world. So if it's an idea or a product, make sure that it's defined on paper so that other people can take it or understand it or do something with it. Does that help? Yeah? Yes.
What if it's kind of like going on your top? What if it's not really, it's more like a service?
Yep.
Is that something that can be crowdfunded or?
It can be. It depends on what you're trying to do with the service. You want to tell me what the service is?
It's a service to Uber drivers.
What's that service? I'm fascinated.
Cars.
Huh?
Providing cars.
Oh, okay, that's it. Well, so that's a fundable, that may be an equity investment kind of thing. Does that make sense?
That's what I
And so two different types, donation and reward, equity investment. So if you're going to do an equity investment, something like that, you want to define your noble market. You want to then put a price. So this is how many I could profitably sell. This is the noble market of customers, right? And 10% of those will buy my product. My product is X, right? That X, so 10% will buy it at this amount. So now all of a sudden I've made this much money, and I'm looking for this amount of profit, right? And then I can build it out that. You see how now it's not just a service, but now it's a service, and now it's a business and an investable idea that has a return that I can quantify. You see how we can play these games? Uber was crowdfunded, by the way. Yeah. Okay.
What did you say?
Service. Is there a service? Can we fund a service? Like a service for providing cars for drivers of Uber.
Oh.
Makes sense? So I like the idea. But definitely, by the way, we'll see more. The thing about the equity crowdfunding portals is that unlike Kickstarter and Indiegogo, they will vet your products before they put them up there. That's not true. Some of them will, some of them won't. But anyways, any other questions?
Not all business.
That, look, how probable is this guy to execute? How big is this market? How big and scalable can it be, right? What are the potential profits, right? And then, can he execute? Is it the right market? You know what I mean? So business, there's a, VCs do it all the time, there's a long-established,
So that would work better for equity crowdfunding.
yours, I mean, are you trying to make money with it, like a business moving forward? I think those are good with equity or debt. I mean, you could definitely try the donation, but you're gonna have to kind of, what's my motivation for giving you money with nothing in return? Now, that doesn't mean that you can't come up with that, right? It's like, the Pebble watch, I may never buy one, but I like the idea that it's there, so I might give them $20. But we didn't really get into, let's keep going through these. Let me get into the case studies. Keep going. Well, here, how about I do it? 7 or 8. Choosing your crowdfunding idea. Okay. How about we go, this is kind of the topic that you're talking about, right? Choosing your crowdfunding idea. It doesn't have to be about money, but know that if you're going to do an equity or debt investment, that you're going to have to somehow quantify it to that. All right. Choosing your idea, is it something passionate? Is it something that's missing in the marketplace? Are there other people doing it, right? Can you do it better than they're doing it? I think we kind of covered what they were. All right, moving on. How much to set your funding target? This is a real important one that people get into. So how much money should I ask to raise, right? Just know that you're not looking for crowdfunding to make money. You're looking for crowdfunding to recover costs of creation or costs of raising capital, right? So find out how much it will cost at the bare minimum, right? Maybe a little bit more for operating costs, Clearly define what you think your budget is and be honest. Take it down with pen and paper. You don't need to be an expert here. And if you have, the thing about Google is you can find out anything. So if you, find out what a real budget is, right? And then set that. Add 10% for platform fees. They're going to charge anywhere from 8 to 10, anywhere up to 9%.